welcome and or welcome back. I'm very excited for today's episode because I'm going to be able to tell crazy and scary stories. Of course, I'm going to have my email down below just so you can submit stories if you want to yourselves. And as I tell these stories, I will of course be making themed cakes per usual. Hope you enjoy!
Most of these stories will be made up. So starting with story number 1 is, of course, made by me, called The Wrong Delivery. This is one of my few older ones. So if it's cheesy, it's my bad. I was in my college years at the time this happened, but never will I ever forget how this happened. Hi, my name is Katie, and I'm 22 years old. Around the time I had ordered a new note-taking kit, my friend Layla advised me. She said it was a very efficient way in note-taking and organizing for my classes. I read through the review. By the looks of it, it appeared to be a fine product with a lot of good starred reviews, and it was pretty affordable price. I made my purchase, then sat down at my desk to look around on the web. A few hours go by, and I decided to get ready for bed. I turned on my TV and dimmed my lights nicely. I then laid down looking up at my ceiling before drifting off to sleep. The next morning, I got up and made breakfast for me and my roommate Blake, when there was a knock on the door. I went over and checked, but saw nobody. I then saw a small package. I never thought my package would arrive this quickly. I checked the address to make sure it was right. I then sit down at the coffee table and open the package, a foul smell coming from it. I peel away some more of the package and let out a scream of horror at what lies before me. It was my friend's decapitated head. I dialed 911, and an officer had talked with me, explaining that they would look into it as much as they can. In the meantime, I had to break news to her family. About a week from now, we had a funeral for her. Her parents were devastated, and her older brother seemed distraught. I asked if any of them would need anything, to which they answered no. I simply nodded and stated that if they ever needed any help, that they could call my number. I made my way home when I got a notification that my package had arrived. I opened my door, picking up the package, then opened it, but my new kit wasn't in there. In fact, there was weird-looking potions. It was then until I realized it was small vials of poisons of sorts, from cyanide to so on. I stared in shock. Whoever was playing this sick joke needed to stop. This wasn't at all funny. A few hours went by, and it was starting to get late. I decided to head to bed because I had class tomorrow, and I needed to make sure I had enough sleep for engineering. As I lay peacefully in bed about 4 a.m., a loud tapping was heard on my window. I ignored it, thinking an animal smacked into it. Then a loud shattering sound was heard. I sat up, slowly opening my door a smidge. A figure was inside my dorm. I shook Blake awake before telling him to call 911. The person began to creep around the dorm. Blake tells me to stay on the line with the operator as he grabs his bat. He then opens the bedroom door, and the guy tackles him immediately. I scream before grabbing a book, hitting the guy over the head. The man shoves me away, holding his head, clearly stunned. Blake then tackles the man, striking him. It isn't long before sirens are heard. The door soon flies open, and an officer runs in, apprehending the deranged man. Getting a good look at him, I noticed that it was my ex, Barry, staring in horror. We had broken up after a misunderstanding between each other and a heated argument. He smiled sickly at me as the cops dragged him out of the house in cuffs. I combed my hands through my hair before cleaning up the broken glass on the floor with my broom and dustpan. A few days went by, and there was a knock on my door. I opened the door, and there was a package. I picked it up, took it inside, to finally see my studying kit I had purchased days ago. I sat down and began to take notes for my next test. Here's story number 2, specifically a stalker story. I went to the park with my best friend. I had been practically begging him to join me at the botanical park because I was dying to see the geese. We took a walk, looking at the beautiful plants and scenery, till we went to a lake covered with birds, mainly ducks and geese. I looked in awe at all the geese and bought a handful of seed and offered it to one of the geese, who swam up to me and pecked away at the food, its beak tickling my hand. I smiled with glee as I fed the goose. I stroked a few of its feathers before having to get up and grab another handful of food. I placed a handful of food into my friend's hand. I then grabbed another handful for myself and crouched down near the pond to hold out my hand. These geese swam over us curiously and began eating the food out of our hands. I giggled in joy before noticing someone standing by the pond, not far from us. He appeared to be watching us. I tossed the remainder of my food into the pond, ducks and geese swimming over to eat it. I poked my friend and murmured about wanting to go to another part of the pond. I grab another handful of food and walk over to a different part of the pond, the man watching our movements. I tossed the handful into the pond before grabbing my friend's hand and beginning to make my way out of the park with them. The man just stared, watching over every movement. I then began to drive us home. As we were driving, a car pulled up beside us. It was the same man, his face expressionless. He just stared. I began to drive a little faster, taking a right. He followed, and I quickly drove to a gas station. I jumped out of the car, which is a very bad idea. He grabbed a hold of me, and I let out a scream, alerting a lot of others nearby. He began to sweat as I tried to tug away from him. He squeezed tighter. A few people walked over, confronting him. He then tried to play it off, but they could clearly see me being uncomfortable. They tugged me away from him before calling the authorities. Me and my best friend after that decided to hang out indoors, seeing as today was a bit of a disaster. And that is exactly why I'll probably never go out in public often. Time for, of course, one last story. So this was more of a real-life thing that happened, which is actually incredibly crazy, but it was more of a fun night, in my opinion, to what happened. I'm going to tell you the story about how people tried to, of course, unalive me 3 times in one day.
Bro, you dumbass. You said take
So,
10.
me, my 2 cousins, and my brother were out doing yard work for people to make a little bit of cash. It was summer break, of course. And, well, we had been walking around for maybe a good few hours, so we figured we'd take a break. I went to go eat food, and they went to go swimming down the street. Well, as I'm sitting in my room eating noodles, my cousin rushes into the room and sits there panicking. He's like, someone's trying to hit my sister over the head with something. So I got up, and of course I took my food with me, because I wasn't going to go on an empty stomach. And I went to see what was going on. And I'm going to, of course, keep them anonymous. All I hear when I get over there is, come on over. Come on over. Because they were trying to urge my cousin to come over so they could jump her. And of course, I was like, stay over here, and if they try to make a move, then we'll deal with them. Of course, which they didn't. I guess it was more due to my size is one thing I learned to intimidate people with. Despite not being that tall, honestly. But, yeah. So, I figured we would all leave and, of course, ignore this and brush it off. But before you know it, there's people screaming, unalive them all before they leave. And I turn around, and there's people holding guns. So, we take off running, as this is more of a losing battle, of course. And I never expected people to get this violent. So from what I was told, it was because someone was angry that their Crocs got wet. Which is really a stupid reason. But that's really whatever. So, we were running down the block. And we managed to get somewhere where they weren't able to find us. So then we went back to the house, counted our money, decided to go get some pizza and some drinks in the gas station. And, well, we were going to just leave my slightly older cousin to wait for the pizza, but then we saw some of their people in a car, so we decided to wait with her to get the pizza. Then we went down to the gas station. Me and my younger cousin went to get some energy drinks. They didn't really want anything. My brother and them, of course. So we were walking out of the parking lot, and my other cousin is like motioning to the people getting out of the car. So I tell everyone to start running. I wanted them all to get ahead of me first, so if anything were to happen, it would only be towards me, because they were still obviously younger. I was actually the oldest of the group. We ran home. I made sure they all got inside before me, and then I locked the door quickly. We went up to my room, because I said no one was sleeping downstairs because of those events. And we kind of settled down. Me and my younger cousin were cracking open our energy drinks and sipping them quietly while I was watching YouTube. My brother fell asleep on the floor. My other cousin fell asleep on the other bed I have, since clearly she was exhausted. And it was then when we started to hear mumbling downstairs. So I turned off my TV and I pressed my ear to the floor. And then all I hear is, "What are you doing? Is the window unlocked?" And I look at my other cousin, who's still up. And we both were like, "You heard that too, right?" And to which, of course, we both agreed. So we woke my brother up, we woke our other cousin, peeked out the window. I started to mess with my flashlight, pointing it down the hall of my room. When a light flashed back through my window, I immediately turned my light off to make sure if it was any sort of threat they wouldn't see. But what we do believe is that could have been cops looking for someone who escaped or something. But which we stayed quiet. When I looked out the window, there were people trying to get in my mom's car, trying to get into the back of my dad's truck. And that was really confusing. It's like 3 a.m. Practically, Mom and Dad are not awake downstairs. And we start hearing footsteps around the house, so I quickly text my dad to see, well, hey, are you awake? I got no response whatsoever, which was just a great moment. So, I told everyone to keep quiet and stay behind me on my bed. So if ever needed to, I could at least try to protect them if any threats came our way. And they were getting closer to my bedroom door. Now keep in mind, there's a whole staircase they have to climb to get to us, and a whole hall they have to walk. So I would possibly have a slight advantage, because I have a few things. I guess there's some glass jars. I have a little bat that I used to play baseball with. I don't really play very often. But we sit there in silence, trying to make sure whether or not they're going to open the door. They get closer, and there's more mumbling and stuff. And then my younger cousin got a really stupid idea, which then started to slightly raise my stress levels. He decided to start making everyone laugh, because he's like, well, if we're going to all go down, we're going to all go down laughing. So I told him, we're not going to be laughing when they're literally sitting here either shooting us or stabbing us or something, right? So I told them to quiet down. They didn't quiet down for like maybe a good few minutes. I'm sitting there stressed as heck, just trying to listen in on whatever's going on downstairs. And it's about 5 a.m. I'm exhausted, but extremely stressed, so I'm not sure whether I want to go to sleep or not. I call my friend Nightmare, and I talk to him, tell him about what happened, and then I pass out and call with them. So, it was a very interesting night. It was quite a thrilling chase, though. But that's personally just me. So, honestly, just be careful of people in the neighborhood, because some people get angry over the smallest things.